morning, everyone. Today, we would like to greet all the participants who are currently connecting to the transmission of the second virtual roadshow of the National Hydrocarbons Agency Colombia, hosted by IHS Markit. My name is Carlos Bellorin. I am with IHS Markit, and I will be the moderator for this event. We're pleased to hear from the Minister of Mines and Energy of Colombia, Diego Mesa Puyo, and the President of the ANH, Armando Zamora Reyes. We thank the participants who are joining us online, and we want to remind you that our transmission link for the event is colombia-round-2021.open-exchange.net/registration. The registration page is being kept open for the people that have just come aware of this event. After the event, a copy of the video recording will be posted on events.ihsmarkit.com/Colombia-round-2021/home, which is the website used by IHS Markit for the registration of the roadshows related to Colombia Round 2021. The program we're covering within the next 90 minutes in this event is as follows. Introductory words from the Ministry of Mines and Energy, Diego Mesa, followed by a presentation of Colombia Round 2021 by ANH President Armando Zamora Reyes, followed by a Q&A session. Before we start with the introductory speech, I would like to introduce to you the Minister of Mines and Energy, Diego Mesa. Diego Mesa is an economist expert in the design and formulation of public policies for the mining and energy sector. He has more than 15 years of experience in leadership roles in multilateral, private sector, and high government entities. First as Vice Minister and then as Minister of Mines and Energy in Colombia between 2018 and 2021. He co-led the implementation of policies for the country's energy transformation, including the design and execution of the first auction of non-conventional renewable energies. Additionally, from the presidency of the board of directors of the ANH, he has led the reactivation of the hydrocarbon sector, including the signature of 35 new E&P contracts so far, after more than 5 years without signing contracts of this nature. Prior to joining the government, the minister served as an economist at the International Monetary Fund and PwC. The ministry holds an undergraduate degree in economics from Concordia University in Canada and a master's degree in economics from McGill University, also in Canada.
Hello, it is a pleasure to participate in this virtual roadshow for Colombia Round 2021 for oil and gas, specifically for Asian and European potential investors. 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic has been very challenging for the sector, not only for the world as a whole, but for Colombia in particular. Regardless, we have shown that the Colombian oil and gas sector is resilient and is able to face the difficulties that this pandemic has brought upon us. The Colombian oil and gas sector is critical for the macroeconomic stability of the country. It represents between 3 and 4% of GDP. It also contributes to about a quarter of total foreign direct investment, and it also responsible for about 1/3 of total exports. In addition, we know that Colombia is positioned in the region according to the Colombia Regime Attractiveness Comparison that is run by IHS Markit. We know that Colombia is leading the pack of 11 producing countries in the region with the most attractive fiscal, legal, and contractual regime for foreign investment. We are also number 4th in the oil and gas risk when compared to the main producing countries in Latin America, and relative to other producers in the region, Colombia scores very favorably in terms of all risk categories, including political, economic, sector operations, among others. For all these reasons, we can say that Colombia offers political and economic stability for investors, a very attractive tax and fiscal framework, very favorable contractual conditions, and the country is ready to take in more investment. The Colombia 2021 round is extremely important for our government because it's the opportunity to consolidate the reactivation of the oil and gas exploration and production activity. Over the last 3 years, we've been able to sign 35 new E&P contracts after more than 5 years without signing one new E&P contract. This is possible thanks to the permanent process of allocation of areas, which is being run by the ANH over the last 3 years. For this round, Colombia 2021, there are 32 areas that are being offered. We have areas in mature basins, offshore, but also in frontier basins that haven't been explored in a long term. This process is key for the country, not only for its relevance to the hydrocarbon sector, for the economy, but also because we will continue to guarantee our energy self-sufficiency. Over the last years, we've seen our oil reserves go down to 6.3 years and our gas reserves go down to 7.7 years. Gas in particular is a key energetic for our country, as 8 out of 10 households consume natural gas on a daily basis. Our policy is to continue to advance by connecting more Colombians to the gas service by gas pipelines, and we expect this segment of the market to continue to grow. We now have more than 10.4 million families consuming gas on a daily basis, and we also see significant increase in industry and commercial operations. To conclude, I'd like to say that Colombia Round 2021 offers a broad portfolio of opportunities. The ANH has worked continuously and tirelessly to offer a very attractive process with state-of-the-art technology that will allow for a transparent and reliable bidding round. In addition, within the benefits of the current round, this year, the ANH incorporated in its offer the possibility of investing in what we call the TEAS, or technical evaluation areas, in the Colombian Pacific area, with 9 macro areas and a land map that allows investors to increase the opportunities to invest in the country. This is the course of action that we've taken in order to position Colombia as one of the most attractive basins in the region for foreign investors. We expect this round to be very successful so we can continue to promote exploration and development through the oil and gas industry in Colombia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Before moving on into the program, I would like to make some comments on the Minister's speech, if I may. The Minister raised some important points and mentioned, of course, how Colombia has been badly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it's extremely important bringing this up in this context because the ANH was one of the first regulatory agencies in the world to take concrete measures to guarantee the continuity of operations and the health and safety of workers in operational and non-operational areas. The Ministry of Mines and Energy and the ANH were very proactive in this respect, so kudos to them. The Minister also mentioned how important is the E&P sector for Colombia in terms of its contribution to the country's GDP, which is very significant. I think that the sector will remain an important contributor to the economy for many years to come, hence the importance of this round. Also, Minister Mesa mentioned how the sector is in the process of a dynamic reactivation drive and how it ranks above its peers in fiscal, contractual, and legal terms, according to our above ground risk rankings that we built here at IHS Markit. And this is not new. Colombia's E&P sector has ranked always very high worldwide in these areas, making it one of the most attractive destinations for investors worldwide, coupled with an excellent geology and a dynamic service sector. This round brings improved terms and a revamped E&P contract, which clause by clause is one of the strongest and well-thought contracts I've seen for a while. All interested parties can download and submit comments to the E&P contract and the technical evaluation agreement from the ANH webpage. The period to make comments on the letter ends tomorrow, 8th of September, and for the former on Friday, 10th of September. Comments may also be made to the E&P influenced Communities Benefit Program resolution draft. In short, I truly think that the 2021 Colombia round and the permanent round process are opportunities not to be missed. Now, I would like to introduce the audience to the ANH President Armando Zamora, who will be presenting the most important aspects of Colombia round and digging deeper into these details. Armando Zamora is a mechanical engineer and specialist in high government from the Los Andes University. He's the current president of the National Hidrocarburos Agency. He has a Master's of Science and a doctorate in engineering from MIT and an MBA from MIT Luzon. He's an honorary professor at the CEPMLP of the University of Dundee, Scotland, where he was deputy director. Mr. Zamora was the first director of the National Hidrocarburos Agency from 2003 to 2011, emphasizing in the creation and the threatening of the new regulatory authority of the hydrocarbon sector in Colombia, as well as the adoption of new model for concession contracts. He organized and executed 6 bidding rounds for the exploration and production of hydrocarbons, widely regarded as modern, competitive, and fair. The floor is all yours, Armando.
Thank you, Carlos. Good evening in Asia, good afternoon in Europe, good morning in the Americas. It is my pleasure to be here with you and give you an overview of the Colombia Bid Round 2021, which is now in full swing. And this is an invitation for all of those interested in participating. We still have until the end of September to submit your documents and your nominations for the bidding round that will take place in the middle of November, as we will see in the presentation. Next, please. This, as you can see, this is the history of bidding rounds since the creation of the ANH in 2003. We signed our first contract through direct negotiation with Ecopetrol, ExxonMobil, and Petrobras back in 2014. Then we signed a series of contracts until we organized the first bidding round, which is the Caribbean round of 2007. That first round led to the contracts that make today a very promising basin, a very promising area in the Colombian Caribbean, after a couple of discoveries and the beginning of the appraisal and development. Following that bidding round, we had, as you can see, the mini round 2007 for areas in mature basins, the heavy oil area, which was a totally new frontier and is today making the bulk of our production on land. Then the mini round of 2008, and then the Colombia rounds of 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014. After 2014, there was a lull in the organization of bidding rounds, as the minister has said, and beginning in 2019, the country adopted a permanent process, which means that the country is open continuously for companies to nominate areas, and at the same time, the ANH selects a number of areas and offer them to potential investors, as we will see in the presentation. This 2021 bidding round is the 4th cycle of the permanent process that was launched in 2019 and has a Colombia Round 2021 as a commercial name. Next, please. As I mentioned, this is the 4th cycle of the permanent process, and the core of this bidding round is the offering of 28 areas that were selected by the ANH and have been studied and modeled and have a full package of technical information and analysis up to the level of prospects ready to drill in some of them. So this offer, besides those 28 areas, which include most of them on land, as we will see later on, and a number of them in the Pacific Ocean offshore for technical evaluation agreements. Besides those areas, the country is open for nominations, and already up to date, we have 9 areas that have been nominated for a total of 37 areas now open for biddings in November. We also We also have about 400 areas in all the Colombian basins, which have been pre-defined, pre-designed by the ANH, and are available for nominations up until the end of September. We also have a new model contract that has been discussed with industry very intensively since the end of last year. We have a new, more attractive, more easy to administer contract, much more attractive in terms of its economics and its built-in incentives for the deployment of activity, as we will see in more detail later on. We also have allowed, and this is of interest for companies already operating in Colombia, the transfer of obligations from existing contracts, from current obligations to the new contracts. And that is a very powerful incentive for companies to readjust their portfolios and to participate in this bidding round. This, the contract allows, as has been customary in the country, for a preliminary phase or phase 0. Next, please. These are the key dates, the more important milestones for the round. I think the first milestone that is worth mentioning is the limit, the last date for presentation of documents for pre-qualification and for expressions of interest, which is the 30th of September 2000 of this year. Those are the first two milestones. We will issue a list of qualified companies on the 15th of October. We will release the definite map with areas for bidding on the 3rd of November. The milestone number 5 that you see in the slide is the most important one, which is the day of the submission of offers, which is the 16th of November. And this is on the first day of the Summit Oil and Gas Conference in Bogota. Even though this is a virtual event, and we will be able to receive offers remotely, as we will explain also later on in this presentation. Then we will have a validation of offers, and the 30th of November, there will be an opportunity to make counter offers for those areas that received offers. And on the 13th of December, we will announce the final award of those areas which will have no counter offers, and on the 23rd of December, those areas with counter offers. Next, please. This is a progress that is being made for those 37 areas which have been already nominated either by the ANH or by participants. Those areas, through some jurisprudence, have the obligation to be consulted with the communities in the areas of influence. So the ANH has completed the ANH will have to consult with 231 entities. We have completed already 148, 186 are pending in this period of time until the bidding date. So we have made more or less an 80% progress on this very important process. So far it has been running smoothly, but this is just a detail for information. Next, please. We have adopted a facility based on blockchain technology so that the submission of offers can be done remotely. And as you all know, this blockchain opportunity, this blockchain technology is safe and transparent and will allow companies to submit their offers previous to the opening on the 16th of November. And they will stay safely in this environment until the exact time of the opening, which can be done remotely through the use of a unique passport that will be available to companies who submit offers. Next, please.
I think, Armando, before going into the next part of the presentation, I have a couple of questions regarding this first part, which is very interesting. I was looking at your slides, and 2021 marks 14 years since the 2007 Caribbean round. It has been a long and all in all a very positive process since Colombia decided to liberalize and modernize its hydrocarbon sector institutional and legal framework. For instance, and these numbers are impressive, when you took over, the ANH in 2003 production was around 500,000 barrels per day with a downward trend. But when you left 8 years later in 2011, production was 927,000 barrels per day, reaching 1 million barrels sometime later. This is remarkable, and people tend to forget about it. Said this, what are the goals of this round and the overall plans to increase production in Colombia and attract new investment into the sector? I know you're going to talk about this later on, but from the onset, I just wanted to know your plans, Colombia's plans to make this happen.
Yes, Carlos, thank you for the question. Yes, the National Government Plan 2008 until 2022 has a goal for this year to award 15 contracts. This is a long-term plan that the government had since the beginning of its tenure in 2008. So we are aiming at meeting that goal. And in terms of production, in 2019, December 2019, before the pandemic, production was in the order of shy of 900,000 barrels per day. That's petroleum, because gas is another story. Gas production has been following demand up until now of about a billion cubic feet per day. In terms of oil, we are in the stage of recovery of production. The recovery has been slow due to the difficulties of recovering production after the long pandemic and the protests movements that we had in the month of April to June. So the production is slowly recovering, and we aim at 800,000 barrels by the middle of next year. There is an upside, because the good news is that we have had a number of new announcements of discoveries, which are in the process of tests and environmental licensing. So there is an important upside. 900,000 barrels per day, which was the level that we were having just before the pandemic, is also a reference. But next year, 2022, we will end up between 800,000 and 900,000 barrels, somewhere around those levels. What are the long-term goals of Colombia up until, let's say, 2040, which is a plan that we are putting together and will be announcing in November in the conference where we will have the bidding round? Our first aspiration is to maintain the self-sufficiency of the country, both in oil and gas production and consumption. Self-sufficiency is the first goal. But there is a secondary aim, which is to maintain the current level of exports. And for that, we would need a reserve replacement ratio of 100%. And that may be possible if we reach an average number of 20 contracts per year until 2040, as we have seen in the past. The country has still tremendous potential. The country has new possibilities like unconventionals. And if we are able to develop unconventionals and we are able to maintain the intensity of exploration, we will be able to have a replacement ratio of 100%.
Thank you, Armando. And yeah, this is very interesting, ambitious plan, but I think thank you for the experience you had in the past is feasible. You mentioned blockchain technology, and you introduced this in this process, and I understand it's been a successful experience. Could you please tell us more about it? I mean, why the decision to introduce blockchain? I mean, this is very important. I think it's very convenient and save a lot of time and money, and it's very secure. But why was taken that decision? What was the decision process in this regard?
Yes, the decision was taken last year in the middle of the pandemic. We wish to maintain not only the continuity of operations and production, but maintain the continuity of the business, of maintaining the interest of companies to participate in this permanent process. So we decided to take the opportunity last year because we were in the middle of lockdowns. It was very difficult to travel, but we wanted to offer the opportunity for companies who wished to make offers for new areas last year. And the blockchain technology was a way of allowing the submission of offers without the need of travel, without the need of bringing physical papers. And we made the experiment. We had a couple of companies participating, and it was a very exciting test. It was a test, but it was a test for real. And we were able to award for areas in the middle of the pandemic. And that served as the proof, as the test for the potential of this technology. We now are fully confident. This is not mandatory. This is for companies who voluntarily wish to use this technology. And we will also make sure that we have the backup of paper offers for those companies who want to attend the submission of offers and have a full paper backup. But I think this is a process that is here to stay for the future because it is safe, it's convenient. Companies can deposit their offers remotely from their headquarters in Asia or wherever they are, and we'll be able to open them remotely in real time and watch the results of all the offers that are received as they happen in real time.
Thank you very much, Armando. Yes, and I think great comments, and I think we should move on into the second part of your presentation where we were talking about the structure and qualification requirements.
Very good. This is pretty much same process as the previous third rounds. And just for the sake of clarity, avoidance of doubt, the objective is to award areas to carry out, next please, to carry out exploration and then following exploration production, and we will explain how this is going to work out. We are offering the two types of contracts that we have, which is technical evaluation agreements or exploration and production contracts. Technical evaluation are preliminary contracts for as it says, for the evaluation of the information that is available previous to nominating an area for a proper exploration and production contract. We are offering the opportunity to have both kinds of contracts in this opportunity. It's an open and competitive process. We will explain the details, and we are offering all kinds of areas, continental and offshore. and with potential for oil and gas. The whole acreage is open for business. Next, please. We have 3 opportunities for companies to participate in the process. The first one is the nomination of areas, the first opportunity. And as we will see in a map later on, pretty much the whole country has areas that have been pre-designed and very easy to nominate just by expressing the interest in a particular area. That's the first opportunity to be active in the process. By nominating an area, companies have a first right of refusal if those areas receive counteroffers later on. We will publish the list of proposals for areas that are nominated, and those areas are subject to the reception of counteroffers by interested parties. That is the second opportunity that companies have to participate. For areas that have been nominated, companies can offer better offers, and we will see what an offer consists of later on. Once counteroffers are received, companies who have nominated areas in the first opportunity can also match those better offers and ensure that they retain the area for award. So those are 3 times in the process. The first one will close on the end of this month, and then the others are, as we mentioned in the slide with the milestones. The second opportunity is on the 16th of November, and the third in early December. Next, please. This is pretty much standard. Companies can participate individually as operators and investors, or in consortia, where one company is the operator, retaining at least the 30% interest in the consortium, and investors can participate without being operators. Investors and operators require legal and economic and financial capabilities. Those qualifications are detailed in the terms of reference, which have been published right now for review and for comments, pretty much the same as in the previous 3 rounds. The operator is required to have technical and operational capacities, environmental and corporate social responsibilities. All the details are in the terms of reference. This year, companies who qualified in 2020 will continue to be qualified automatically. No need to update their documentation. Companies who wish to qualify for the first time are able to submit their 2019 financial and operational information, because 2020 was an atypical year, and all the data may have been distorted. So we have already 16 companies that had qualified last year, and we have about 5 companies which are currently in the process of qualifying for this bidding round. Next, please. Now, what are the characteristics of the new contract? Next, please. The award is based on the best offer of the economic value of the exclusivity, which is presented in terms of equivalent wells to be drilled. By that, we mean that the value of one well is established in a table that is public, and the economic value has to be stated in terms of numbers of wells. So the offer, the main awarding criterion is the number of wells that companies intend to drill in the area. Minimum of 1, can be more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and that is the main criterion for awarding of areas. As we will see later, the secondary bidding parameter or tiebreaker is a percentage of participation in production for the ANH. So that the payment of that economic value, which is the number of wells times their value, is deferred until the end of the exploration period, which is of 6 years. That payment needs to be guaranteed by a letter of credit from a bank. And during the exploration periods, companies that drill wells will be able to discount the value of each well from that letter of credit, so that by the end of the exploration period, if they drill all the wells of their offer, then the economic value exclusivity is reduced to 0. So this is a built-in incentive for companies to accelerate their activity and the exploration, because this is what we are looking. If companies, for one reason or another, are not able to drill those wells, then they will have to pay the economic value of the exclusivity at the end of the exploration period. The secondary bidding parameter, which needs to be also part of the offer, is also a customary, already established percentage participation of production in units of percent. 1, 2, 3, 4%. It has to be entire units. And because there is a very high likelihood that there will be if there are several offers of one area, because there is a high likelihood that there will be a tie, then this secondary bidding parameter becomes very important for the award.
Exactly.
The other new characteristic of the contract is that the right to produce after a discovery is contingent on all obligations of the exploration period being met and on the companies having the qualifications to operate, because different types of let's say deposits have a different requirements for companies to operate. So if one company wishes to proceed to the production period, we need to make sure that the operator meets the requirements for operation. So the passage from exploration to production is not automatic. We need to verify if the obligations are being met and the company still has the qualifications to operate. That's a new feature of the new contract. Next, please.
Armando, I think I have a couple of questions that I would like to make before going into the last part of the presentation. Yes. The ANH is introducing a new E&P contract. I've seen it, and it's on the ENH webpage, and it's not only simpler and a straightforward contract, but it's easy to read. I mean, you did a massive work in this. And I was speaking to you the other day, and you told me that the contract was a symbiotic process between the industry and the ANH, and that you received many comments, and you take those into consideration to come up to this final draft. I think that the final version will be published very soon. But can you tell us more about this process between the industry making comments and you processing those comments and then turning into this contract? I mean, the issue of rebalancing the interest of having a good contract, easy to administer, and a fair contract to contractors. That I think is very interesting to know.
Yes, well, the first generation of contracts, let's say the contract model that was used in the rounds of 2010, 2012, 2014, was a very successful contract because it was designed on the basis of private law, of civil law, not on public law. So there was a very equal, a very balanced relationship between the agency and the contractors. That contract evolved since 2014 into the new contract that was the new model contract that was launched with this permanent process, which became a lot more designed around the rules for public contracts. And after that contract was launched and used in the first 3 cycles of this round, we had a review, which was done actually by IHS, about the opinion of the industry about this new contract model. And very clearly, the industry was asking for a contract model that resembled more the first generation of contract, the contract launched in 2010, because it was the type of contract that is more suited to this industry. And in fact, our legislation allows for an exception of oil and gas contracts from public law contracts, which give more power to the state to exercise unilateral measures. So because the industry really preferred the earlier type of contract, which actually worked really well, we decided to engage in a process that started late last year, asking companies for their opinions and their suggestions for a new generation of contracts. And that was the first move. Then we had several rounds of proposals, suggestions or reactions by industry. And this is about this draft has been published after taking into account the suggestions that we received in more than 10 public audiences and a successive number of written comments, which amount to more than 300 specific comments, a very active, very intense, very open and straightforward exchange of opinions. So we think the contract model that we have reached, that we have achieved at this moment, is very acceptable to industry and has a good balance between the requirements of the administration and the requirements of industry. A very intensive, very open, and very, very positive, proactive, and constructive process of consultation. I think the industry is quite, we already began to receive comments, and they are, I would say, marginal and minor, and the contract model is pretty much, has been consensuated with industry.
Thank you very much, Armando. It's very important to have this interaction with the industry at all times. I mean, that is super relevant. My next question. The ANH is offering, again, the technical evaluation agreements after a long time. I think this is an excellent idea. Could you please tell us how many of these TEAs are on offer and over what areas? Is the current model different than the one used in the past? Is under, there is a draft also in the ANH, on the ANH webpage, open for comments until Friday, I think. And the previous version used in previous BIM rounds was very successful model. Does this one is along the same lines, or there is something different about it?
No, this technical evaluation agreement, because that one has been preserved and hasn't been used since the first generation, it's pretty much the same. We only need to adapt the contract to some of the new rules that were adopted in the last 8 years, but pretty much is the same. So no big changes. We are offering, I think, around 6 areas. We will see the exact number later on in the review of the areas. But we have a number of TEAs on offer for areas that are frontier areas in the Pacific coast, both onshore and offshore. And because those are very frontier with little information available, with little exploratory history, those areas are being offered for TEA. But having said that, companies can nominate any area offshore or onshore, in any type of basin, either mature, emerging, or frontier, for TEAs. We are offering that flexibility. The only rule is that if for one particular area, we have a simultaneous request for TEA and EMP, then the EMP will prevail. That's the only rule. But the contract, that, as you mentioned, is simple, has been successful, is pretty much the same model and hasn't changed since we introduced it back in 2008.
Excellent. Thanks, Armando. So let's move on into the final part of your presentation, please. Let's talk about the available areas and
yes,
there is an offer, please. Thank you.
So as we mentioned, next, please. Next. These are the two versions of the land map. On the left, you can see the whole land map and areas in color, yellow, blue, and red are areas that are active with a contract. In yellow are the areas in exploration, in blue, the areas under technical evaluation, in dark blue, and in red areas under production. We have, this is a very interesting statistic. This is a very exact number, but this is just a coincidence since the ANH signed its first contract in 2004, the ANH has signed 600 contracts, either for exploration and production or for a technical evaluation agreement or for special contracts with Ecopetrol. Besides those 600 contracts that were signed, and of which 300 are still in force, we have 400 areas that have been pre-designed, and you can see on the right-hand side, and are available for this bidding round. They have been very carefully designed in terms of size and shape according to the degree of maturity of the different basins. And you see in blue are the areas that are being offered by the ANH that were selected, that have a package of information readily available and has a geological analysis, and in most of them identified prospects that are ready to drill. In pink color, you see the 9 areas that have already been nominated by companies. The blocks that you see, or the areas in white, are all available for nomination, and those are a little bit more than 400 areas. Next, please. So first, let's see the areas that are offered by the ANH. Next, please. The areas are in 9 basins that you see in color in the map. 4 frontier basins in the Pacific. They are called, well, Urabá is in the Caribbean basin, and the other ones in the Pacific. They are all in the west, in the western areas of the country, and those basins are Urabá, Chocó, Chocó Offshore, and Tumaco. Then we have 2 emerging basins in the north coast, onshore, very active. This is the areas where we have most of the activity, with many discoveries of gas, which is the fuel of the transition for the energy changes that we are seeing, and that they are called the Lower Magdalena Valley and the Sinú San Jacinto basins. And the other 3 are mature basins in the Mid Magdalena, Upper Magdalena, and the Eastern Llanos Orientales, or Eastern Plains of the country. Next, please. The areas that the agency selected are, as you can see, 1 in Urabá, 3 in Sino San Jacinto, 4 in the Lower Magdalena, 3 in the Mid Magdalena, 4 in the Upper Magdalena, 3 in the southern eastern plains, which are for heavy oil, 3 in the light oil and more mature basin of the eastern plains or Llanos Orientales. And then there are 7 areas for technical evaluation agreement in the western area of the country, in the Pacific coast, on land and offshore. Next, please. So total of areas we have are 20 for exploration and production that you can see in green in the map, and 8 for technical evaluation agreements. Next, please. Now let's have a look at the areas that have been nominated so far. Next, please. And already we have 9 areas that have been nominated in the most, let's say, active basins of the country, both in the Sinu San Jacinto, Lower Magdalena, also in the Mid Magdalena, and 5 in the Eastern Plains. Those are the areas that are in green and in a circle. You can see them all together with the areas that the NH is offering. These are the areas that are open for offers on the 16th of November, and later on for counter offers on a later date. We are still accepting expressions of interest to incorporate areas until the 30th of this month. And it is a very easy process to make. Please, next. The areas that you see in white, this is only a sample, just for illustration. Areas in white are the areas that are available and have been pre-named, pre-designed by the NH. They have an abbreviated name that is made of the a basin in which they are located and a consecutive number within the basin. For example, LLA 106 is Llanos 106, and that is a unique identification for one block that is available. And the surface area is defined by a polygon, usual procedure in the identification of these areas. Next, please. I think this is it. There is no further slides for the presentation. This is a summary of what we have on offer. There is more information on our webpage, and we are having continuous webinars are being announced on our webpage, anh.gov.co. I'm open for questions, for discussion. Carlos, as you wish.
Thank you, Armando. We have been receiving some questions, and we would like to remind the people in the audience that you can make any questions at any time. Just use the email that was provided for it. So we're going to start with, there have been some questions about the exclusive economic value, or but as I said, I mean, there are many questions in the previous roadshow. We received also many questions, right? So you talk about it, but and we agree that it's a clever and innovative mechanism that brings together the interest of both the NH and the contractor, and it's very straightforward. Since there is a lot of interest about it, could you please walk us through again how it works, the EEV? Armando, please, just for the sake of people to be super clear how it works.
Yes, and again, thank you for that question. The economic value of the exclusivity is the name that we gave to the bidding parameter because it is the equivalent of a signature bonus, which is the most widely used bidding parameter worldwide. It's the most objective any area that is being taken for exploration has an expectation. That expectation is the expected net present value of the exploration in a given area. But the country is not interested in signature bonuses. The country is interested in activities. So we didn't really want a signature bonus, but what we wanted was a commitment by companies to engage in activity in those areas. And what better commitment than an amount of money that reflects a share of the expected net present value of the area that will be deferred until the end of the exploration and will be discounted by the number of wells that are drilled in that particular area. So with that concept, we achieve, number one, a very objective bidding parameter, which is the equivalent of a signature bonus, but it's not exactly. We achieve a deferral of that commitment until the end of the exploration period so that companies have a built-in incentive to deploy activity as rapidly as possible, because as companies drill wells, the value of the well, which is a reference value, which is objective as well, is pre-established and reflects the current market conditions for the drilling of wells in the different basins. Companies can deduct the reference value of those wells so that at the end, if they drill all those wells, they won't be liable for any payments. So there is, with that, we achieve, number one, an objective bidding parameter that is related to the expectation of this area. Number two, we achieve an accelerated deployment of activity, which is what we really need. And as we said before, we are not interested in signature bonuses. We don't want to spend ahead of time the income from those expectations. What we really want is activity and production. And we will have our share of production once the companies are in the production stage. So that's the genesis, that's the how we came up with that definition of economic value of exclusivity and the built-in incentive to basically pay for the wells that are being drilled. So it is quite, I think, an attractive proposition for companies and for the administration.
Thank you, Armando. I think, yeah, this is a very good incentive and align the interests of all the parties involved. And I think, yeah, and you're looking for activities, and activity brings a lot of good things, like discoveries. I have another question. I have some questions regarding the contract and some the qualification and access to the information. But first, there is one participant asking if there are areas with non-conventional potential being on offer. What happened if, for instance, an operator that was awarded an area with conventional potential would like to test its non-conventional potential?
Excellent question. From the exchange and dialogue with industry, we decided to open up all the areas for exploration for conventionals or unconventional prospects. What happens if a company, let's say a small company, discovers an unconventional play? Two things will happen. First of all, in order to move to the production stage, we need an operator with the qualifications for unconventionals, which are more stringent, higher than for conventional development. Or same thing in the offshore. We need an operator that meets the conditions. And secondly, we will have to wait, or we will have to make sure that unconventional activities are allowed because at the moment they are suspended by the order of a high court until the pilot projects in the Mid-Magdalena take place. So at this moment, unconventional development is suspended, but the right will stay there and will remain until those suspensions, the suspension is lifted. But the right to produce will stay with the company that explores. And we are open for unconventional prospects, but the condition is, just to summarize, that they can only be developed if they are allowed by the law and the courts, and if the operator has the capabilities to do so. So yes, exploration for conventionals is welcome.
Thank you, Armando. I have another question regarding data room. Is the data room available through the ANH website? And I think it would be important to clarify also a question we had in the previous Roadshow regarding on the information that is included in the data room. What is included? Raw data from BIP or interpreted, reprocessed data by service contractor? So 2 questions here. How interested parties access the data room? Is it free? And what kind of information is available? In fact, there are 3 questions.
Yes, well, data rooms are available to anyone interested. We are giving priority to companies that have been pre-qualified to participate. We are giving second priority to companies that have initiated the process for pre-qualification. But if any interested company, if there is space and availability, we'll also have the possibility to organize a data room depending on their interest. And that could be organized by writing to the email of the bidding round of the Colombia round 2021, which is published on our website. We will make sure that there is a very clear email to write requesting for a data room. Now, for areas nominated by ANH, we have a full package of information that has been pre-selected, of analysis, and of a discussion with our geologists. For areas that have been nominated, we also organize a data package that is available on the first sessions of the data room. For companies that haven't been offered by the ANH or nominated, the whole of the country is available in the Colombian Geological Service. It can be consulted and organized by them. But we will help, if companies express their interest, we will help organize those data rooms. We will show the data free of charge. But if companies wish to buy any particular items, they can be purchased from the Geological Service. And we will direct companies on how to do that. That information is sold by the Geological Service. It's not very expensive. They simply want to cover their expenses. But we will make all the effort to facilitate the data rooms because we know how important it is for companies before they make a decision.
And interestingly enough, thank you, Armando. That's very clear. And interestingly enough, we have another question that was put up in the previous Roadshow. Are the Caribbean offshore blocks on offer?
Yes. Well, this is there's a particular situation in the Caribbean. The ANH has engaged in the investigation of areas in the Colombia Basin, which is the deeper Caribbean, and those blocks which are under study have not yet been released for 2 reasons. Number one, there is a process of delimitation of areas which is going on in the Hague Tribunal, and we don't want to create any noise or disturbances until that ruling takes place, and it's a couple of months. So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Colombia has been making sure that we have no noise in the deeper Colombia basin. However, we have found very interesting information on the tremendous potential of that basin. We are keeping those blocks, the blocks that we have studied, let's say, on hold for the next bidding round. There is one block that in which we are undertaking directly 3D seismic and piston coring and a number of analyses, because the potential we see is really material, even though it is a little bit far away from the coast. So there is no urgency at this moment. We are engaging in the, let's say, pre-exploration activities ourselves. The rest of the Caribbean, as we showed in the map, is open for expressions of interest. We are not actually offering those blocks because, as I said, we are keeping them for the next cycle of the permanent process. But we have had many good news in the Caribbean. In the, let's say, in the Sinú, San Jacinto, and Guajira basins, we have had discoveries. In the Urabá basin as well, there is evaluation going on. Some of the areas that were on their technical evaluation agreement are going to be converted into contracts pretty soon. It's too early to mention, but it's already, the conversion has been requested. So around those areas, in the more, let's say, more emerging part of those basins, there are a number of blocks which are available for nomination, either for technical evaluation agreement or for exploration and production. I would encourage companies that are interested to nominate those areas. It is one of the most, I would say, exciting and material emerging areas that we have at the moment, that together with unconventionals and the heavy oil areas. So yes, the Caribbean is open, but not the very deep Colombia basin, because we are waiting for some decisions to be made by the International Tribunal in The Hague.
Right. Thank you very much, Armando. And moreover, the areas on offer. There is a question about the Pacific areas, and I know that these areas has been regarded as of great potential in terms of exploration for a while, but they weren't, pay attention for a long time. Now it has been decided to include these areas in the process, which is, I think, is a very good decision. And why? I think the question is why it was decided to add these areas into the process right now.
Yes, in the economic recovery plan of the National Planning Department, the National Hydrocarbons Agency was asked to very actively engage in the acquisition of information and the promotion of areas in the Pacific, because the Pacific is an area with a lot of social need. Is one of the most, all the Pacific coast has a need for investment and development, because that's where the most disadvantaged communities are at the moment. So this is a concerted effort with the government, first of all, for the ANH to deploy its budget, which is substantial, for the acquisition of information and the modeling of the basins in that area, but also because we have seen for a long time a very interesting potential in the Pacific, and we think this is the window of opportunity for companies to start looking, and we will put all our efforts on those areas. We, in the past, we basically deployed our efforts in all basins that were not known. Since 2004, we were able to illuminate the potential for heavy oil, which is now is being proven in full force, the potential for unconventionals in the mid-Magdalena, the potential for gas in the northern coast, both onshore and offshore. We have been very successful on that. Now we are turning our focus on the Pacific, which is the area, the frontier area that needs us, the frontier areas that need us most, the most at the moment. So that's the reason why we decided to offer areas in the Pacific. The Pacific has been, there have been some attempts to explore the Pacific in the past. The indications are encouraging. There are some environmental and social challenges, but we will, together with the companies that are interested, work in that area, because that's where the country needs to put its efforts, in the most disadvantaged areas of the country.
And it will be a game changer, not only for Colombia's hydrocarbon sector, but for the whole, for that part of the country to have activity, and then hopefully a discovery there. Another question.
We are initiating a very ambitious program together with the University of Chocó.
Oh, wow.
To do the environmental and social activities previous to a very ambitious stratigraphic well that we will drill in the north of the Chocó Basin. So yes.
Now you mentioned, I have some questions. I was going with a technical question, but I'm going to go with another question regarding the communities and coordination process. And we have talked about this in the past, and I think the ANH has put a lot of effort and times on the communities and coordination concurrent process. I think you'd regard that as a #1 priority, to listen to the communities and involve them into the process. But this time, we were talking the other day, Armando, you told me that you started the process from the bottom up instead from the top down. How was this process of sitting down with communities and spending a lot of time with them, explaining the plans and everything? That's very interesting.
Well, yes. I think we were discussing the process of design of the pilot projects in the areas for unconventional potential in the mid-Magdalena. And the government in 2018 put together a team of experts from the industry, an international team of, I think it were 13 experts in all areas related to the development of unconventionals, from environmental to social, health, hydrogeology, all areas that are related to those specialties, to engage in a process of consultation with the communities in the areas, to have a deep understanding of their concerns, their aspirations, their views and their perceptions about the development of unconventionals in the areas where the country has already identified a very important potential, which is world-class for development. And this group of experts took into consideration all their concerns, from the use of water, the contamination of air, the social consequences of a big development, and put together a set of recommendations, which is in a very, I would say, comprehensive report, which was adopted by the National Academy of Sciences as one of their publications, and recommended that before engaging in commercial development of unconventionals, all the concerns of the community were addressed by the pilot project, by the organization and deployment of pilot projects, which would start with the acquisition of baselines on all areas of concerns, hydrogeology, radiation, health, biodiversity, quality of air, and having an independent observation and review of the activities, all the activities that are related to a horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing, and all the consequences and all the effects of that technique, as has been done in other countries. So that process led also to lessons learned that, you know, the entry of the sector in an area has to be preceded by consultation with the communities, has to start with a thorough information, which is independent, which is run by the NH, explaining what is going to happen and how it's going to happen and what the effects are, and take into consideration their concerns, their opinions, and their aspirations in the design of the social engagement of the industry. That was also preceded back in 2008 with a very ambitious program in what we call the heavy oil belt towards the eastern part of the country in the Amazon jungle, with very, very positive results, very positive engagement from the communities, and a very good relationship building with the industry. So nowadays, we cannot expect this industry to go into a new area without engaging first with the communities in an effort of providing the necessary information, keeping them informed, and keeping them well advised in how to interact with the industry. And on that, the ANH has taken the position that we are the first port of call of the communities to give them all the reassurances that companies will be doing their work in a social and environmentally responsible way.
Thank you, Armando. And this is remarkable. Full transparency and full engagement with the communities. So we have some questions regarding the contract. The first one is, could you tell us about the arbitration clause in the contract, in the new contract draft? That's one. And I think I'm gonna merge this question into another one. Could you explain the tie-breaking process in case there are two identical offers? So first one on the arbitration clause, and the second one on the tie-breaking process.
Yes, arbitration is now allowed by the legislation and by the authorities, and has been introduced in the offshore contracts. And the request of the industry has been to introduce arbitration into the new contract model, onshore and offshore, for all kinds of contracts. And this is one aspect that we are seriously considering to be introduced in this contract. We need to follow a proper consultation with the Agency for the Defense of the State. We need to make sure that we complete all the conditions that are being established for the introduction of those arbitration clauses. But I would say that this is one of the last requests that we are still considering very seriously. So I cannot anticipate myself, but it is quite possible that we will, based on the precedent set by the offshore contracts, give everybody the same treatment, which is also one of the guiding principles of public contracting, to treat everyone equally. So yes, this is being considered very seriously, and probably we will make the relevant announcement pretty soon. It is not up to the ANH to make those announcements. Those are announcements that are the remit of the Ministry of Mines and Energy, so they will be making those announcements. The other question
is a tie-breaking process in case
about the tie-breaking.
Yeah, tie-breaking.
Yes. No, we have used the same process right from the beginning of 2008 bidding rounds. Companies have to, in their offers, which are basically one page with two numbers, they will have to put an entire number for the number of wells that they intend to drill, and that will automatically establish the economic value of the exclusivity that they attach to this particular opportunity. So let's say you put one well, and they have to also establish a percentage of production that will be that will be the participation of the NH in an entire number of wells with a minimum of 1. So if they establish the minimum 1% and the minimum 1 well, then there is a very high likelihood that there will be a tie in the number of wells and a tie in the participation for the NH. In that case, there will be a draw, and the winner of the draw will be the winner of the block. To avoid that draw, companies are encouraged not only to produce high bids for number of wells, but also for the percent participation of production. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5%. We have had offers of participation higher than 40% in some cases. Those several of those contracts with high participation are being developed and are producing profitably. So the invitation is to make offers of a higher participation in the percentage. And how is the mechanic? We open the offers for every particular block, and we have two numbers: the number of wells and the number and the percentage participation to the agency. The primary criterion is the number of wells, irrespective of the participation. The company with the highest number of wells will be awarded the contract. If there is a tie in the number of wells, then we will look at the percentage participation, and the company with the highest participation will get the contract. If there is a tie in the percentage, then we will go to a draw. It is possible that a company with a lower percentage participation wins the contract if the number of wells is higher. So it is possible that is the case. But if the number of wells is the same, then the company with the highest participation will be awarded the contract.
Thank you, Armando. I think we have time for 2 more questions, or maybe 1. This one is important, and it says, this round is offering areas with vast gas potential, which is regarding the field of the energy transition. How's the current Colombian energy policy approaching the issue of the energy transition?
Well, yes, also a very important question. Colombia is engaging in a very aggressive plan for energy transition in all possible aspects. In the construction of new capacity for generation, which is all being renewable, in the transition to electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles. In terms of energy production and use, the country is one of the most aggressive in the region. However, we are also conscious that this energy transition will take place. No matter how clean our energy matrix is, we have one of the cleanest energy matrices worldwide. But nevertheless, for transportation, for energy generation, the country is making a very aggressive transition. However, it will take several decades for that transition to take place. In those decades, hydrocarbons will still be the main source of primary energy for the country and for the world. So what we see is that despite the very aggressive transition in energy use and production, hydrocarbons will continue to be also a very important, the most important source of foreign exchange and of resources for the government and for the generation of economic activity, employment, demand for goods and services, and so on. So we see a window of opportunity in the next 2 or 3 decades for hydrocarbons to play a very important role in our economic development. So we are speeding up the exploration and the production processes. That's why we designed a contract with built-in incentives to accelerate the deployment of exploration activity. And the policy of the contract of the country is to actually engage aggressively, both in the energy transition and in the development of our potential for hydrocarbons. We have huge potential for gas. That's another part of the question. Gas is the energy of transition. The world is replacing on a first stage more carbon-intensive sources of energy for less carbon-intensive sources of energy, like gas. There is a shortage of gas supply in the world. We have a very substantial potential for gas, especially in the north of the country and in the unconventional place. So we are going after them and we are speeding up. That's why we are being aggressive with our offer of areas, both for potential for oil and for potential for gas. So that is the answer, I think, to both questions.
Thank you, Armando. And I think we're over the hour to put an end to this interesting conversation. And it's glad to know that you have all these opportunities are still available, and you are coming up with innovative ways in order to offer them and to align the interests of the state or the ANH with the interests of the contractors and future investors under the new terms we're in this world. And as you know, we are in a ever-changing industry, and we need this kind of a interaction with the industry to come up with new terms and new incentive and new mechanism in order to keep that interest of it. I would like to thank the speakers for your presentations. Thank you, Armando, Mr. Mesa, for your presentations. They're really interesting. And I would like also to thank the audience for attending today's event, and like to remind the participants which have signed up for executive meetings with NH to sign off of the main event and go on to the passport for the next event, or use the registration link sent to you separately for this event. Also go to events.ihsmarket.com/Colombia Round 2021/home for more information about the next roadshow opportunities and executive meetings with the ANH. And more information about the next phases of the roadshow and what do you need to know to participate, please go to www.anh.gov.co/asignacion-areas/páginas/ronda21.aspx. So Armando, unless you want to give a final message, short message to the audience, we will finish this roadshow and this presentation. So Armando, any words before saying the goodbyes?
Thank you for the opportunity to say the last words. First is a thank you to all of you. Thank you to Carlos and the IHS and all those who are attending this presentation and the invitation to participate in this bidding round. And if not, stay tuned for the next bidding rounds that will be run under the same basis. Thank you very much, Carlos, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Armando, and your team. And well, goodbye. And yeah, this is it. Thank you.
See you soon.
See ya.